64 Audio's new Volur $2,500 gorgeous looking IEM, not just on the box. In hand, it looks amazing. Probably one of my most favorite IEM to date, just in terms of looks alone. But you're not here for the looks, you're here for the sound review to see if this thing is worth purchasing. And in today's video, that's exactly what we're gonna do. Hey friends, Timmy here, welcome back to another video on Gears Audio. Today we have the 64 Audio's Volur. I almost did my signature tossing of the IEM. Really shouldn't with something like this. Let's just jump right into it, starting with the tuning. Now this is a warm, bassy, semi V-shaped kind of IEM. The bass really is the dominating factor here, and if you watch a lot of reviews or read some reviews out there right now, everyone is pretty much praising the bass performance of the Volur, and I agree. I think it's pretty spectacular. Dynamic, punchy, and with great decay. Every good quality you want in a bassy IEM, this thing has it, though it does sacrifice the overall cleanliness of the lower mid-range, if you will. Female vocals and male vocals does have an extra heftiness to their voice, most noticeably in female vocals. Male vocals I don't really mind as much, it really gives them like a richer kind of voice, which is okay. But in female vocals, the warmth in the lower mid-range plus the noticeably recessed upper mid-range make female vocals not shining through as much as I would like. They're not as lively as I would like them to be. They're very subdued and in the background, so people who have libraries such as K-pop, J-pop, or any other weave type libraries, I don't really recommend the Volur for you because you would want a female vocal that's a little bit more lively. This one doesn't do that. In other genres like in jazz, in rock and roll, heavy metal, this thing works phenomenally. It's so much fun. The bass is so satisfying to listen to, and despite the amount of bass that it has, it's not sacrificing any level of details whatsoever. The treble area is surprisingly smooth, yet nuanced. There's a lot of micro details to be found here. Every little percussion hits come across very clean and clear as well. It's endgame level of treble. That's it. The only downside, maybe, is how much you get in the air region. This is going to be very dependent on how much you can hear up to and also your sensitivity to treble. For me, it was fine. It did get a little bit hot from time to time, but honestly, 95% of the time, I was completely fine with it. And I don't think a lot of people are gonna have a problem with this because the treble is a lot, but it's in the air region. It's much more manageable than a lot of treble in the mid treble, if you will. So tuning overall, solid. Very solid. I wouldn't say the best tuned IEM ever because it does kind of gear towards a specific genre, at least in my personal opinion. And some genres, especially genres with heavy female vocals, just don't do nearly as well on this as the more bass and male vocal focused genres. So because of that, I can't give it full marks, but it's still a great sounding IEM nonetheless. Now on to technical performance. This thing, like I said before, it is no slouch. It's endgame level of details. Percussion hits, micro nuances, everything come across so clear that I was actually surprised because the bass is so much and you're still getting so much details out of it. That's kind of rare to find. It's not quite the level of the Annihilator, but compared to other endgame IEMs, it competes with no issues. Now, before we move on to the comparison segment, I have to talk about the Apex module that comes with the 64 Audio's Volur. There's 4 total tuning options, well 5 if you count not using a module, which I don't recommend at all. These modules change the level of bass. For me, my favorite one is the M15 that offers the most balanced kind of signature for me with enough bass fun. The M12 being my second favorite, actually not so far away from the M15. I can see myself listening to both options, to be honest with you. The M12 has a little bit less bass, a little bit more liveliness in the vocals, so M12, M15 my favorite. The M20 has a little bit too much bass for me, a little bit too warm, starts to feel muddy with the M20. The M10 is too lean. I don't really like the M10, and again, without the modules, I don't recommend. Sounds very bad. Use the modules. Moving on is the comparison segment. Let's compare it to the U12T. Now the U12T for me sounds less contrasty in comparison to the Volur. The U12T is very balanced, especially with the M15 module. Sounds great, but it does get a little bit boring. Good, balanced, but not exciting, if you will. Great levels of detail to the U12T as well, I would say on par with the Volur here. But for me, between the two, I much prefer the Volur for the extra bass fun. Like the Volur actually has some character to it, as opposed to the U12T that lacks a bit of character. I did try the U4S a while back as well, so I'll do a quick comparison here. The U4S feels like a mini U12T, so a lot of the same comparison applies, but the U4S has a special thing going on for it, and that is it is half the price of the U12T. For me, between the three, I don't feel like the U12T or the Volur is that much better than the U4S. Ultimately, if you're trying to save some money, which is funny to say because all of these IEMs cost like $1,000 plus, but if you are trying to save some money, the U4S is just as good as the U12T or the Volur. Just slap the M20 module inside the U4S and you'll be just fine for bass fun. Although I should say when it comes to bass quality overall, the Volur beats out the U12T and the U4S. But you are paying a premium for that. All right, that's it for review of 64 Audio's Volur. My final verdict for it is a halfway thumbs up. Yes, not a full mark simply because the tuning is not that versatile. Again, for K-pop, J-pop, and anime type music, this is not nearly as satisfying. But for metal, for rock and roll, jazz, any genre that heavily focuses on the bass and male vocals, the Volur is stunning. All right, with all that being said, thank you so much for watching this video all the way till the end, and I'll see you guys very soon with another one. Peace out. Bye.